Washington mayhem and a city in turmoil. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Council Speaker Adrienne are here. The Point starts right now. It's a topsy-turvy time in Washington, and who knows more about it than Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer.
Hello.
How are you?
Here. Good to be here with you, Marcia, anytime.
Chuck, here's the bottom line. The tariffs have rocked the market. People in New York and around the country are terrified about retirement income, college funds. When is it going to end? What's happening and what can be done?
Donald Trump has created chaos with these tariffs, and they affect New York almost worse than any other place
because of the financial market.
Financial markets, tourism. We depend on exports and imports more than any other place. It's affecting all of America. If he puts these tariffs in effect, the average family will pay close to $4,400 more out of their pockets. The price of food and medicine and gas and clothing goes up. The average person who's put away money for their retirement and is saving with their 401ks and stuff could lose close to $100,000, and it's chaos. Donald Trump's own people are arguing about it. The chief tariff organizer for Trump is a guy named Navarro, and Musk calls him a moron. They say different reasons every day for why they're doing it. Now, they backed off a little when the bond markets got bad, but it's still very bad.
Very topsy-turvy.
And it's going to hurt New York dramatically. I put a bill on the floor of the Senate saying only Congress can do the tariffs. And we did get 6 or 7 Republicans who have joined us in it. We hope we can get something done.
So let me ask you this. The White House is trying to go after you, to say that you and Nancy Pelosi, I know it's in the 90s and the 2000s, but you once supported tariffs and to give tariffs to punish China. How is that different from what you did today and what they
different.
And what they're doing
I've
today?
always been a China hawk, and specific narrow tariffs aimed at China and how they take advantage of us is a good idea. Trump didn't just go against China.
He went about
Everybody. And here's the problem. The way to put pressure on China is to get the whole world to go against them. Instead, Trump turned the whole world against us and with China. So it's a huge mistake. It's one of the most chaotic, unthought through. Every day they had a different reason why they were doing tariffs. One day, get rid of the deficit. One day, bring manufacturing here. One day, so we can cut taxes on the billionaires. Crazy.
So how do we come out of it? Well,
we hope that the markets, we hope that that Trump will see the error of his ways, and we hope more Republicans will join us. Congress has jurisdiction over tariffs. And so Trump is really, presidents have always done it with Congress's acquiescence, but Congress can take back that authority. And Maria Cantwell put together a bill. As I said, it has 6 or 7 Republicans. I put an amendment on the floor of the budget bill saying the only tariffs that can go into effect are those passed by Congress. We would do it in a smart, Democrats and Republicans, in a smart, rational way, aimed particularly at the bad things China does. But right now, it's going to hurt our economy dramatically, and the faith that people have that this administration knows what it's doing on all kinds of economic things has been rocked.
I have one more question. I just wondered if there's been any discussion about investigating whether there was so many market manipulation because there were people in the Trump administration that knew that was going to happen. Is there any possibility that you would call for investigation?
Today, a group of senators, including myself, called for 2 places to investigate. One, the SEC, Senate Security and Exchange Commission. They have jurisdiction, but they're appointed by Trump. But the second are the attorneys general. The attorneys general across the country, New York's, California's, Massachusetts, you name it, has jurisdiction. We've asked them to look into it because Trump announced early in the day, it's a good time to buy. And if people in the government or whoever knew what he was going to do ahead of time, that could be, we have to get the details, insider trading. So there should be an investigation because this administration, as you know, Marcia, a lot of self-dealing.
So let me ask you this question. You wrote, the reason I wanted you on the show was that you wrote a book, Antisemitism in America.
Right.
So first of all, my first question to you is, why did you write this book? And who is it for?
Okay, great question. Why did I write the book? You know, I was brought up in what we Jewish people in America would call the Golden Medina, the Golden Era. I was born in 1950. And first, everyone was advancing on the ladder. My grandparents were poor. My father struggled, but made it into the middle class. That was not just true of Jews. But second, the shadow of the Holocaust and the horror of the Holocaust hung over America. So lots of traditional ways of anti-Semitism were reduced and even eliminated. So that in the past, Jews couldn't live in a certain neighborhood. That changed. Jews couldn't join this firm or go into that profession. That changed. Even the sort of innuendos changed. Okay. So it was a great 50 years. It began to change. Whenever there's trouble, people take it out on the Jews.
But why the Jews?
Conor Cruise O'Brien, the great Irish poet, said anti-Semitism is a light sleeper. It's one of the things I explore in the book. For 5,000 years this has happened. So in 2001, 9/11, you got some of it. Oh, there were conspiracy theories. The Jews knew about it and they all left the tower early. Bull. In 2008, the international Jewish conspiracy, Soros and all that. But it didn't really erupt in a serious, really troubling way after October 7th. And then anti-Semitism skyrocketed. And I'm not just saying criticism.
Don't you think that's crazy that after October 7th, which was an attack on the Jewish state and on Jews, and 1,000 people were killed and more taking hostage, that it gave rise to anti-Semitism?
It did, and there were a lot of protests against what Israel and Netanyahu did. I've been critical of him on occasion. But that's not anti-Semitism. What's anti-Semitism is when you go after Jews as Jews. So, after October 7th, Jewish delis, a rock thrown through their window. You're a Zionist deli. Remember the guy on the subway? Every Zionist get off the subway. That meant every Jew. The head of the Brooklyn Museum, who happens to be Jewish, it has nothing to do with Israel. Her house was smeared in red paint. These instances skyrocketed, and Jews of my generation, Marcia, began to say, which we never thought before, could it happen here? Could the horrors of what's happened to...
Did it make you scared?
It made me... It's a warning. Do I think it'll happen? No. But am I worried, and do we have to be vigilant? Yes. So I thought about it and thought about it. I gave a speech on the floor. I was the first to criticize the left about anti-Semitism, which is the examples I gave all came from the left, although there's plenty from the right, believe me. And I thought about it. I gave a speech, but that wasn't enough. I felt I had to write a book, and I aimed it at 5 different audiences. First, my generation, our generation. We feel sort of alone and isolated. Here, all of a sudden, America's been so great for so long. What is happening? So they would understand through the eyes of I'm the highest ranking Jewish elected official, not only today, but ever in America. That. Second, their children, our children. They are pro-Israel, pro-Jewish, basically, but they don't know the history. They don't know how Israel struggled, how Jewish people struggled. Third are non-Jews. There are a lot of non-Jews who are very, friendly to Jewish people, not at all anti-Semitic, but they sometimes say, why are you making such a big fuss? It's not so bad. The book shows why it could be. Fourth is I aimed it at anti-Semites on the right, but particularly on the left. Me being a Democrat, it's easy for a right-winger to criticize anti-Semitism on the left or a left-winger to criticize, but I thought I could have particular salience talking about it on the left, where it has been there's too much of it, as again, hesitate to say, that is not meaning criticizing of Israel per se as anti-Semitic. And the fifth is all the young people of America who know nothing about the history of Jews or anti-Semitism. Listen to these 2 statistics. 20% of people under 30 say the Holocaust was a fake, it never existed. Wow. I lost relatives in the Holocaust. My great-grandmother and 35 of her family were shot machine gunned by the Nazis. And second, another 50% know nothing about it. The publisher I chose is an expert at getting this book in schools, in colleges, in high schools. I hope it will be required reading, because education, if every American read this book, anti-Semitism would decline. That's why I wrote it.
So we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but we'll be right back with more from Chuck Schumer. Council Speaker Adrienne Adams hopes to break the glass ceiling, becoming the first woman to live in Gracie Mansion, also the first woman of color. But you have had a very busy week, especially after the mayor had his first deputy mayor, Randy Mastro, sign an executive order that would allow federal ICE agents to be based at Rikers Island. Your reaction to that?
Well, my reaction to that, of course, is to do what the council did yesterday, and that is to pass a resolution saying that the council now has the authority to take the mayoral administration to court and or the Trump administration to court for violating sanctuary law.
So do you think, do you think you have a shot?
I absolutely do. The law of 2014 clearly stated that ICE was not allowed to come back onto Rikers, to come to Rikers at all, and the mayoral administration has now opened the door widely for the Trump administration to do what they want to do. So I heard the first deputy mayor say, you know, trust me. But in essence, he's saying trust Donald Trump. And how can we possibly do that? Donald Trump has violated constitutional rights. He has taken money away from New York City's bank accounts. And now we are supposed to trust the Trump administration to actually say what they think we want to believe what they're going to do on Rikers Island, and I say no way.
So basically what you're saying is this was illegal to do
Correct.
this.
Correct. It was illegal. It broke the law of 2014. That law was enacted well before I ever became a council member or speaker, obviously, but it does violate the law.
So do you think that the mayor did this because of his relationship with Donald Trump? And how did you feel about the fact that he didn't do it himself, that he had Randy Mastro do it?
I thought it was very interesting and pretty convenient, wouldn't you say, that he now had to have his first deputy mayor sign off on an executive order, typically signed off by the mayor of the city of New York, so that it wouldn't look like quid pro quo or conflict of interest. But I think that we all see it for what it is. It is actually the mayor living up to his responsibility and cozying up to the Trump administration.
So there's another issue when it comes to Rikers, and that is whether or not it could actually close. By law, it's supposed to close in 2027. Right. That's 2 years away. Is there any possibility that the local prisons, the community prisons, will be ready in time?
The community prisons, again, just like the closure of Rikers, it's the law for those things to happen. And I just have to share with you, my mother was a correction officer, and she retired as a captain in corrections. So again, I always say I legislate the way that I live, and I live the way that I legislate. I would hear the stories that my mother would tell me about her life as an officer on Rikers Island. She wore that uniform so proudly, Marcia. And when I think about actually chairing that committee some years ago when it came to closing Rikers, I called my mom, who's dearly departed now, but I called her and said, Mom, what do you think about this? I'm about to chair a committee that is going to have the responsibility to close Rikers. And she said to me, they should have closed that place a long time ago.
Wow.
And that never left me. So now, as one in leadership and actually has the power to do something about it and to help do something about closing Rikers, I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that that happens.
Do you think it could make the deadline?
Well, according to Littman 2.0, we've got some things to do. Quite honestly, if we had a partner in collaboration these past few years to help us meet that goal, we would be a lot closer to actually doing that and making that date. I don't think it is reasonable to think that that date will be met, but we are certainly going to work to be as close as we can.
So, as you run for mayor, you have announced a really unusual plan to have guaranteed income for homeless families and their children, $21,000. Tell me about that. You're the first person in this campaign to talk about that, and tell me why you think it's important.
Oh, it's so important. It's so powerful. It is a bold plan, but it's so practical, Marcia. It is a plan to end homelessness for pregnant women, for working families, families who have children under the age of 5, also for youth, and also for youth aging out of foster care. So what this plan is going to do is we are going to guarantee income for 4 years. The first 3 years are going to be financed through New York City. It's about $430 million will be financed through New York City, along with independent bonds, private bonds, and the last year is going to be financed by philanthropy. So when we take a look at the bigger goal, and that is the exorbitant costs of keeping people in homeless shelters, compared to this plan, there is no comparison. We will see a savings of over $1 billion, 1.3, and we've tested this. Over 63% of the folks in our test actually came out of shelter and went into permanent housing. That is the goal, and this is one of the boldest things that New York will ever see, particularly with me as mayor.
So what you're really saying is that they take $430-odd million from the city budget, which really isn't a lot when you take a look at the fact that it's $112 or so billion-dollar budget, that it's a good investment.
Yes, it absolutely is. We're talking around the issue of homelessness, but we're not talking about prevention of homelessness, particularly when it comes to families. 1 in 8 children is born into homelessness, into the shelter system. We can prevent that. We have to have the will to do it, and I certainly do. As a wife, a mother, a grandmother, I certainly have the will to do that.
So I need to talk to you about the study budget since we've opened up the Pandora's box. We have a problem with what's been happening in Washington. Number one, there's been a concerted effort on the part of the Trump administration to claw back funds from the city for a variety of programs. And secondly, the tariffs are wreaking havoc with the financial industry, which is a key cornerstone of our budget. So can you talk to me about what you think can happen and what steps you could take as a city council to prevent the city from going into any kind of a bankruptcy because of the loss of this money?
Yeah, the tariffs are very concerning. I mean, we just had a mayor tell us that he didn't understand the tariffs. I'm pretty clear about the tariff, what they are and what they will do. They stand to lose upwards of 260,000 jobs if they are enacted, if they come to fruition. This will devastate New York City, potentially put us into a recession. What the City Council does and has always done, I'm the only candidate in this race that has seen us through negotiation of 3 successful city budgets, now working on my 4th. What the council has always done, what we are going to do is protect New Yorkers. We had a mayor that wanted to cut and devastate New Yorkers. City Council had to come in and restore a whole lot of funding that he wanted to take away that were harming New Yorkers, children, libraries, cultural institutions. What we are doing now is we are protecting in reserve of finances. City Council has always been the voice on the other side of City Hall to maintain that fiscal responsibility. We're going to do that again very successfully. We're going to hold in reserves and try our best to Trump-proof New York City.
So do you think it's going to affect, like, I know that the council at one point thought that there was an extra $5 or $6 billion that could be spent. But now, given what's happened in Washington, are you having second thoughts about allocating that money because you may need it to deal with, cuts from, from Wall Street, cuts from the financial services industry, and money that's going to be clawed back from Washington?
Yeah, and what you say is such a good point. In spite of the fact that we do have a lot of trepidation and chaos coming from the Trump administration, regardless who the next mayor is, New York City is going to continue to have that target on our back. But now is not the time to give up on protecting New Yorkers who need us so much financially. So along with being those fiscal responsibility entity that the council has always been under my leadership, we're going to continue to protect New Yorkers from the devastation of the Trump administration.
So we have about 30 seconds left. Will it curtail some of the things you want to spend money on?
We're going to actually take a really hard look at it. It's going to change and adjust. As far as curtail, perhaps there will need to be adjustments made. But again, we are the ones that have always maintained sense and sensibility when it comes to fiscal responsibility for the people of the city of New York. That is not going to change now.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it right there for now. But our conversations continue right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. Thank you for joining me as we engage in a little trash talk. We're talking garbage. It's week 1 of a composting crackdown, and city sanitation officials have issued nearly 2,000 tickets. Will it make New Yorkers use those brown bins? Well, they're weighing in on your point. What are you supposed to put in the compost bin?
Food scraps.
Like banana peels and apple cores and whatnot, right?
Meat, vegetables, stuff that can deteriorate and smell, right?
Bits and pieces of vegetables, all the, food you don't need, you put in the compost.
Table scraps.
I think you can put in paper as long as it's touching food.
Things that can be put into the earth and not do damage to the earth.
Everything that normally I would have buried with my grandfather Fidel Bianchino back in Canarsie in the dirt for fertilizer. But most New Yorkers have no idea what goes into a compost bin.
I know what can't put in.
What can't you put in?
Can't put anything that is plastic, anything that'll have toxins in it, anything that's metal, those kinds of things.
So the city wants everybody to compost. Do you think that's ever going to happen?
I'm very hopeful it will.
Isn't that already a law?
Yeah,
like all these apartment buildings have like mandatory compost programs, right?
I highly doubt it.
Because
some people really not into it.
People are lazy and they don't want to do it.
No. Why not?
Politics. I mean, they've been trying to do it for years, right? I mean, there's compost bins here, but I need to get an app and download it.
So, do you compost?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
You do?
Yes, I do, especially at work I do.
Not every single time.
I do not. No, I do not compost.
I'm in a rental building. Do I compost? No, honestly.
It's in the basement. I don't necessarily think about it.
I live in an apartment. I don't have anywhere to put it. I have a limited space.
I'm not dragging my food down from my apartment downstairs to the compost bin.
We have a D- energy rating on our building. So, I mean, I cannot imagine my landlord doing composting.
There's too much of a pain in the.
What do you think it would take to get most New Yorkers to compost and put stuff in compost bins?
Just make it very available, very easy.
I don't know. Have them outside of every building?
You make the instructions very clear.
You have to educate them, a huge educational process.
I can't answer that. I mean, you know, where's my crystal ball? I mean, if we could get 50% of the people in New York to do it, if we get 60%, that would be amazing.
What do you think it would take to get most New Yorkers to compost?
Fines.
Fine them to death, like smoking. It's the only way to get people to stop bad habits.
Probably threats, something nasty, a fine of some sort, because appealing to people's better nature doesn't usually work too well because they don't have one.